Okay, here we go. So we're back. Welcome to another day of journey with myself. I'm your host Sarah, and let's go ahead and start with a brief meditation. So if you're in a place where you can do so, hopefully you're not driving. Sit where you can, where it's quiet, where you can sit with your spine straight. Close your eyes. Just relax. Breathe normally. Now take in deep breaths, slowly. Inhale and exhale. Now focus your attention between the space between your eyebrows. Maintain your focus there. And as you breathe in and breathe out, imagine that the breath is coming in through the third eye point between your eyebrows. And as you exhale, that the breath is going out through the third eye point between your eyebrows. Keep your spine straight. Now as you inhale, feel the strong vibration of the sacred sound Ma. And as you exhale, feel the strong vibration of the sacred sound Inhale. Ma. Exhale. Inhale. Ma. And exhale. And just relax and feel the peace. Continue to hear the sacred sounds as you inhale and exhale. And slowly open your eyes. We always encourage the meditation to be done on a regular basis, ideally in the early morning before dawn and in the evening before going to bed. Those hours are the most auspicious times to have a deeper meditation because the atmosphere is quiet and more conducive to a deeper meditation. I posted today about awareness and observation. I posted essentially that with having aware observation, that we can identify certain patterns and synchronicities as we're going through the experience of life. I posted that as we're able to step back from a point of detachment and observe these things, we can see the inner lesson that lies within those experiences, those circumstances that recur. By so doing, life becomes like a giant puzzle with the pieces strewn about here and there, but from that detached perspective, it becomes clearer to us how the pieces fit together. And you who have participated on this call know how, when describing the process of meditation, that I often draw the analogy about the movie The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, describing the encounter that Bilbo Baggins and the dwarves, who were on a quest to find the Lonely Mountain, the ancestral home of the dwarves, had to go through this forest that was enchanted with dark energy. As they went through the forest, they were consumed by that dark energy and found themselves confused, agitated as they got caught up in the circumstances. They found themselves, as a result, just going around and around in circles and couldn't find their way out. And the more that they did so and the more they tried, the more frustrated they became. The more angry they became. And so the more caught up in the circumstances they became. But Bilbo Baggins was able to stop himself. He noticed what was happening with himself. And he was able to pull back from the circumstances. He looked up. And then it occurred to him to climb a tree, which enabled him to rise above the circumstances. And from that vantage point above the circumstances, he could see the situation more clearly. He could see where he was. He could see where he needed to go. He was able to have a much better assessment of the situation because he had a higher vantage point. And I use that as a correlation to the experience of meditation, because the experience of meditation takes us out of the circumstances, allows us to be able to rise above the circumstances. But I've also pointed out how we can use that same approach that we take when we meditate by detaching from thought to approach life in a meditative state, thus rising above the circumstances, particularly when we notice ourselves getting caught up. You know, as the saying goes, you can't see the forest through the trees. So, interestingly, for the past few days, starting with Sunday evening, I found myself, fighting off an illness, and as I was in the process of fighting it off, I did succumb to some some feverish symptoms. I started getting chills um, and sweats, and that situation had me essentially, down for 3 days, for like 2.5 days, and um, I found myself just either sleep in my bed or sleep on the couch, or just on the couch, flipping through channels when I wasn't sleeping. And as the song "Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts" goes, there's a passage in that song, and that's "Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts" by Funkadelic, where George Clinton says, "There is no chance, coincidence, or accident in a world ruled by law and divine order." And indeed, there is no chance, coincidence, or accident. So, as it happened, as I was flipping channels with the remote, I happened to turn to, I think it was TNT, which was at the time playing the movie The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug. And I kid you not, the scene that was on at the time that I turned to it was that exact scene that I just described just now. And I was just completely blown away by it. I was like, no, this is not happening. But I wasn't actually surprised by it. But it just struck me that I've talked about that particular scene so often that it, by chance, quote unquote, happened that when I was at home with nothing to do, or, not feeling good enough to do anything but watch television, that I just happened to turn to the channel that was playing Desolation of Smaug. And the moment that I turned to it was the exact moment when that scene occurred. So, indeed, when there is no chance, coincidence, or accident. And it also happened that in some conversations that I've had with people who have reached out to me for counsel, I've used that scene, as a metaphor, much like I do on this call, and it's been beneficial, for them in putting things in perspective. Not only that, I've also used the metaphor, and I think I've done it on this call before, of describing life as being a maze, like like we've all been put into this grand maze, yet the maze has rooms, has situations that we can experience and interpret as being pleasurable experiences, or we can interpret them as being challenging or difficult experiences. And we choose them all. We choose which path that we take to go through the maze. Now, at times, however, if we come upon a particular path that leads us to a room that there is a pleasurable experience, we may spend some time there. And sometimes those pleasurable experiences, we will know even upon crossing the threshold into it, that we will know that though it's a pleasurable experience, it is not one that is beneficial to us in terms of our our spiritual growth. But sometimes we'll do it anyway. Listening to the voice of ego, rationalizing why it is that we should do it, and that happens. But even in that, there's something to learn from it. And so, in reality, there is no mistake. There are just different ways to learn. Yesterday I went to attend a court hearing with a friend of mine who needed a character witness. And his situation could have been avoided. I counseled him, some time ago about the person that he chose to be within his relationship, and advised him against it based upon my observation of her behavior. And I sensed from him that he knew that what I was telling him was the truth. But yet he continued on with that relationship. And the consequence of him making that choice has led to what he had to go through yesterday, and a number of things that have brought difficult circumstances for him to undergo. But even in that, it was a choice of how to learn a lesson. He could have learned it by heeding the wisdom of wise counsel, or he could choose to learn it from experience, or he could choose to learn the lesson by not even experiencing that situation, but by heeding the inner wisdom of spirit. So typically, the sequence goes: you're presented with the choice, the inner voice gives advisement on which choice we should make. Ego then will follow with its rationale as to why we should or shouldn't do it. And then we will make a choice as to which voice to listen to. If we then listen to the voice of ego, we may seek out some counsel. And the decision to seek out some counsel will be essentially fed by the counsel that we got from our inner voice. So we're still open to hearing or even heeding the wisdom of the inner voice, but we're not heeding it directly. We're looking for some type of co-signature on it. So we'll seek wise counsel. Now, our motivation for that will either be that we want some validation for making the decision that ego wants us to make, or confirmation from spirit. Often it'll be the latter. Uh, I recall a story as I'm recounting this. There's a story about a spiritual aspirant who was seeking the master, but he wasn't really ready to be the spiritual master. I mean, to have a spiritual master. He wasn't ready because he wasn't ready to follow instructions. There were things that he had attachment to that he wasn't really ready to let go of. And so as he sought masters, when the things that they asked him to do, if they involved letting go of some things that he liked doing, he did not choose them as masters. And so finally, on his search, he encountered a horse. And so he asked the horse, he says, horse, I've been looking for a master, and you seem like you are very wise. Would you be my master? And the horse nodded his head yes. So it was great. So he says, well, master, can I go out and have pizza tonight? And the horse nodded his head yes. So he went out and had a pizza. He says, I'd like to go out to a bar and and have a few drinks. Is it okay for me to go and do that? The horse nodded his head yes. And so it was great. So he goes out and he has a few drinks.
Atmo.
And hey, what's up, Atmo? So so the spiritual aspirant then says, hey, my friends who I met at the bar, they want me to go to this party, and I think they're going to be smoking weed and drinking, and having a bunch of women over. So he asked his horse master if it's okay for him to go. The horse nodded his head yes. And so, needless to say, he ends up becoming, a drug addict, and he doesn't, he's not successful on the spiritual path. But so that I told that story to just characterize how it is with us sometimes when when we're faced with a choice and the voice of intuition is speaking to us, advising us to take an action or advising us against taking an action, and then we'll listen to the voice of ego and then seek counsel, much like that spiritual aspirant went to go find a master who would basically was no master, who would allow him to do what it is that he wanted to do anyway. And so the second one is, going for listening to the counsel of another or not. The third stage will be you just decide to do what it is that you want to do anyway and just listen to the voice of ego and experience the consequences of that decision. Okay, and so we could have learned from or taken heed of the wisdom from within. We have the second choice of heeding the wise counsel of another, or 2B would be finding somebody who agrees with what ego advises us to do, and then 3, we just do what ego wants us to do anyway, and then ultimately we end up suffering the consequences of those decisions, but then we end up learning the lesson as a result of the experience, hopefully. If we don't, then we will continue to repeat that lesson until we come to the realization that we've been making bad choices all along, and that this is what those choices have led to for us. And so, again, there is no mistake. It's just different paths that we chose in order to be able to learn the lesson. The only gradation is that the different paths that we've chosen are, some are more easy or more difficult than others. But which one we chose, it could be the latter was the most effective, but that depends upon our constitution. But, it's a choice, and, and we have free will, to make our choices. And which also brings me to another experience that I recently had, and after this I'll open it up to any questions or comments. I had a friend who has been a spiritual aspirant for some time, and he has decided that I guess the spiritual path has been too hard for him, and so he's going to renounce that and just basically live life the way he feels like it. And so and he's someone who I consider to be a friend, and he's reached out to me for counsel on occasion, and so but he posted that on his Facebook page. So I reached out to him and suggested that it might be good for him and I to talk, and he responded to me by saying that he's doesn't think that he needs to talk. He's made his decision. He's happy with the path he's chosen. So I'm like, okay, everyone has the right to their choice. And, so I left it at that. I didn't spend any time trying to convince him of what to do. And so, therein lies an important lesson for us, in that it's not our responsibility to change anyone, to convince anyone of what type of actions that they should engage in. Our responsibility is to ourselves. In fact, we are not to interfere with the free will choices of others. Even if we have good reason to feel or know that the choice that they will make will lead to some uncomfortable circumstances for them, we must allow them to make their choice, because that is the choice that they have chosen in which to learn the lesson. And so it's not for us to interfere. We can give wise counsel if we are asked for it, but once we've given that counsel, we must step back and allow them to make their decision, to make their choice. It's not for us to interfere. And, I think that's important because a lot of us tend to, particularly in our relationships with others, spend the majority of our time trying to tell other people what to do rather than focusing on us making the right choices. So, with that, I'll open it up to some questions and comments. And again, I'll point out that this is interactive, and everyone will get much more from it from the discussion than just listening to me speak. And I'll tell you as well that most of what, if not all, of what I share here, I do. They're from observations that I have made from my own experience, from applying the spiritual principles to my own life, or even having gone through some experiences making choice number 2 and 3 and learning the lessons from them. So, but
yeah, Sarah, I think I want to add something. Oftentimes, all of us have that little bitty voice going on that's telling us, don't do that, don't do it.
Right, exactly.
And that voice is trying to keep you on the straight and narrow path.
That's right.
And I can say that I have not listened many times and have suffered the consequences because it was something that either I didn't want to do or did want to do, and I did it anyway, or didn't do it anyway. I have suffered the consequences, and which means that there's a lesson to be learned at that point in time.
That's right.
And to listen to what is being, listen to that voice that's telling you to do or not to do. And so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I'll tell anybody, that, I'm not above all of this myself, so, I've gone with option number 3 myself and not listened to intuition and stuff, consequences, intuition, advising me on relationships, not listening to the voice of relationship and suffer some very adverse consequences.
Right.
As a result. And even today, this time actually I made a good decision. I was driving home from the bank, and and intuition had given me the resolve to just kind of cleanse my body and to make good choices in terms of eating something that is going to make me feel good, rather than eating something that tastes good that is making me feel bad. And almost like 5 minutes after I made that resolve, I'm driving home, and the thought popped into my mind to go get a pizza.
Oh yeah, I know the feeling.
But I didn't go with it. So. Any other questions or comments?
Sarah, this is Vasil. Yes, I wanted to add one. Actually, a couple of months ago, I had a very particular situation where I had a couple drinks, and I was feeling more or less nice. However, I wanted to go to sleep. But then my ego kicked in, and it was like, oh, have a couple more. And I listened to it. And I did it. I had a couple more shots of Jack, and the next day when I woke up, that was one of the most terrible days of my life. I was all day long till probably 10 p.m. I was in the state of fear, state of panic, state of anxiety. What will I do? What will I do? What is going to happen next? And as I was going through the day, I was always kicking back to that feeling that I had before taking that shot. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I just didn't listen to myself. And
so what did you learn?
well, listen to myself. You know, Sarah, that was a big day. That was a big lesson for me because I could, make a connection between what happened the next day and between what happened to me the day before when I was feeling like, okay, man, you had a few. That's enough. Don't do it anymore. But let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I listened to it. I did not regret it since I learned my lesson, but, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah,
and also,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want you to finish.
I also wanted to add a little bit to your analogy with the Bilbo Baggins and climbing on the tree. If you watch the movie, you can see that dwarfs, before Bilbo climbed on the tree, dwarfs were getting really agitated.
That's right.
Going in circles, getting nowhere. Bilbo, from all of them, he was the only one who was staying more or less calm, cool, and collected. And in that situation, he was the one who figured out what would be the best way to get out of it. So he came up with an idea to climb up the tree. He did. He saw the way, and in the end, they got out. Well, they had to go through the elves, but still, they knew the way. They got out.
Right. Well, and look, as I was pointing out, I don't think you caught the beginning. As I was yesterday, I was kind of feeling a bit, under the weather, and so I didn't feel good enough to get up and do anything other than like just lay on the couch and watch television. And it happened, quote unquote, that when I turned the television on, I happened to turn to that particular movie, Hobbit: Desolation of Smaug. And when I turned it on, it was on that exact scene at that very moment, which struck me. But now Bilbo did get caught up in it, but he however had a higher state of awareness than did the rest of the dwarves, and so he noticed himself, getting caught up in that negative energy. And so you'll notice if you look back at it, as soon as he noticed it, he shook himself out of it. And at that moment is when he, looked, he like just kind of almost physically stepped back and then took a look up at that tree. And that's the how I bring the analogy of that, when we notice ourselves, getting caught up, in the emotion of the situation, and that it has taken a hold of us and is controlling us. At that moment, with awareness, we can step back, take a deep breath, and pull ourselves out of it mentally, just in the same way that, we detach from the circumstances when we go into meditation. We detach from our thoughts. We can do so as we're going through our waking moments in life. We can step back and take a meditative state of consciousness, where we become an observer of the situation. We step, we rise to a higher perspective as Bilbo did by climbing the tree. and then we can be able to see things more clearly. We go into a meditative state, which then allows us to be able to hear the voice of intuition. But, what I wanted to say, Vassal, was that, you made an important point, as you described going through the situation and then reviewing it the following day and noticing and drawing the correlation of how making that decision affected your next day. But in so doing, however, you didn't allow yourself to get caught up in self-pity, which is important, because what can often happen is that ego will take advantage of the fact that, we will sense a feeling of guilt for having made the wrong decision, and would then put us in a process of just beating ourselves up, which then will set a cycle of negative emotions, which would be difficult to get out of. And so, I think I posted the other day about how, negative emotions would be like, going to the doors when someone rings the doorbell and letting in an unwanted guest, and but letting one in, you let in like the whole neighborhood of unwanted guests, and you have a difficult time being able to get them out, And so negative emotions are like that. Once you let one in, it opens the floodgates, and you have a difficult time of getting those out and getting back to a peaceful state of mind. And so it was important that you didn't allow yourself to go down that cycle, but were able to just be able to step back and review the tape and learn from it. Any other comments or questions?
Sir, this is Vassal. That was a great point. I appreciate it so much, and it really correlates with the Master Key from Charles Funnell. I believe that's one of the last chapters where he says that literally, when you have that victimhood mentality, that's when you open the doors of your subconscious for any other negative thoughts that might come next. And once you start filling your subconscious with those negative thoughts, we all know what results we will get.
Exactly.
So that's an amazing point, and it's really amazing to see how different teachings, they all come to the same basic points. It might be different words in different books, different audios. However, all the basic points, they are all the same. Thank you.
Exactly. See, I've made that point to you a number of times, and so, it's, I can attest to this. One of our teachers, Brother Dadisi, and also, Dr. Lagan, had always taught us about the fact that there is a golden thread that links all the spiritual teachings, and so, part of our studies was to learn, something from as many spiritual disciplines as we could, so that we could be able to discern what that thread is, and be able to, see through the symbolism of it, in order to be able to discern the inner message, and once you're able to get out, through the outer layer, or the profane layer, as it were, you would be able to clearly identify, what the true inner meaning is, and you'll see that there is no conflict between any religions, other than just how people interpret them from the outer perspective.
Yeah. There are many paths to the light.
Absolutely.
There's only one source, but there are many routes, many paths, and we're all treading them, but in a different manner. There's only one truth. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know if I shared this on the call, but when I got married the last time, my wife she had considered herself to be Catholic at that particular time, and so she wanted us to go through the Catholic wedding, and which then required us to be interviewed by a priest, and so I submitted to that, just to just to see what the process would be, and so I went to the interview, and the priest looks at me and says, "So, Sarah, what religion are you?" And I said, "All." And I was quiet for a minute and let that sit with him, and then I expounded by saying, because I see all the different religions as being different paths to the same truth. For instance, if I wanted to go downtown, I could take the 405 to the 10. I could take the 5 to the 110. I could take the 101 to the 110. Which route that I take, however, is irrelevant. It's whether I get to my destination. And so he considered that for a minute, and then I guess being the authority, he felt like he had to come up with something that was a bit more profound. So he says to me, he says, "Well, certainly you should want to choose a certain brand of religion." He said, for instance, so if you had a child and you were teaching him how to brush his teeth, that you would want him to choose a certain brand of toothpaste. And I said, no, that if I was teaching my child to brush his teeth, I would say that the objective of brushing your teeth is to get your teeth clean, not which brand of toothpaste that you use. Needless to say, we didn't get married in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
That also goes back to the point that you made earlier, Sarah, about the decisions that we make can alter your path to the light.
That's true. That's very true.
It could take longer, as long as you like. If you don't listen to that inner voice, you'll continue to learn lesson upon. I mean, life is full of lessons, but you can compound your lessons too. If you continue to not pay attention to that inner voice, your lessons can become more harsh.
That's right.
And you have a lot of obstacles and oppositions on your path that could have been avoided.
Yep.
And so, yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. My name is Joseph.
Greetings, Brother Joseph.
Yes, I was thinking about that inner path. You call it, in a sense, a negative ego, and it's the trickster.
Yes.
It always lies. It's never told the truth. So one of the ways that we were taught to harness its power to transmute the negativity is to recognize its gains. And the gains of ego are usually, we were taught to be less than or better than. And it begins to rationalize.
Yes, yes.
When you're rationalizing, you know what it is. And if you can recognize that the worst, what it doesn't want is have light shine on it.
That's right.
So we embrace it. I've been taught to say, thank you for showing up, but I need you to transform into a much more useful energy.
Yeah.
And what it says, what it's trying to say is that the I or you are too weak, and it's a lie, because once you understand it, see this little snot nosed little thing, you want to slap it upside the head sometimes and be quiet. I need to eat a better meal today.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's where you take the power back from it, because it wants to disempower you or to disempower the I. And it's as if we were talking that if you were made president of General Motors tomorrow and you don't know one damn thing about running General Motors, but you pretended that you do, your ego pretends that it is you.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't know anything but to destroy you. And it will destroy you along with itself, because it doesn't give a damn about you.
Absolutely. I spoke about this probably, I think, on the last call, and in some counseling that I was given to a couple of brothers over the past week or so. And one of the analogies I drew to it, and I made the same point as you did, Brother Joseph, is that how you are able to discern between the inner voice and the voice of ego is that the inner voice is easy. It's light. It just fits. It's not something that is difficult. Whereas with ego, it's, you're rationalizing, you're trying to justify it, because ego is trying to talk you out of something that the inner voice has advised you. And so when you find yourself having to justify and rationalize, it's like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It doesn't fit, it doesn't work, but you're trying to rationalize and try to make it fit when it doesn't.
Right.
And when you end up going there, as Atman said, you'll find that path can be pretty rocky, and you continue making that decision, it'll be much more difficult each time. So it's like life is like a classroom, and if you don't heed its lessons, you will not pass that class. You will have to take it again, but the tests that you go through end up becoming more difficult.
Yeah, over and over and over and over again.
That's right.
But but it's okay, because if that's the way you chose to learn, then so be it. And it's the same. With as we're observing what's going on with others, it's important for us to realize that it's not for us to interfere, with their choices. Like, what I said, with my friend who said, he wants to just go his own way, once he said that, I'm like, okay, let me know how it goes. I wasn't trying to give him any advice, because that was how he chose to learn. So we're coming to the end of the call. I see Latifah's on the line. Do you have any questions or comments, observations?
Yeah, I just unmuted the phone. I was just about to say something, so it's funny that I kind of knew that. But I just really wanted to say that it's important. One thing that a vital part of kind of putting the cherry on top of what you guys have all said is that being people who study and work and listen and want to better ourselves with this information, a lot of times we hold ourselves to such a high standard that when we do mess up, we're really, really hard on ourselves. So I just wanted to say that I've learned the lesson, and I have to remind myself, or I don't have to, but I choose to, that it's okay. It's okay. Move on. and lesson learned next. And I just wanted to say that that's been a powerful tool for me.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Forgive yourself.
Or as Brother Steve Coakley would say, check.
Yeah.
And
Forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yourself.
And
Right.
and I say big time amen to that, because that's a lesson I have to continually remind myself of.
Yeah.
Because I can tend to be, very hard on myself, even just by virtue of the fact that I've been given my name, Sarah, which means son of God. So, I do hold myself to a high standard, just by virtue of that, and but I also have to be mindful of not, allowing myself to, be so hard, that I can't forgive, myself, and just learn to be able to just
self-pity and martyrdom,
and let it go.
Self-pity and martyrdom have no place in spiritual development.
That's right.
I would
it's
also
like
add
a really big mistake. It's just it's more of a work to to forgive yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would also add that we are not perfect, but we are here to perfect.
That's right.
To perfect. We're going to make mistakes. Life is it's a playground. It's full of lessons. We're in school, so we're going to get knocked around. You're going to get knocked down. You get up, you brush yourself off, and you keep going. That's
right.
life.
And we get stronger, from the process. So, I posted, something, a quote from George Clinton who says, without hunks, there'll be no getting over. Right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, guys, this is Vassal. I wanted to say thank you for Latifa. You literally put a cherry on the top of this call. Thank you so much. That's what I had to hear. I love you so much, guys. Sarah, amazing call as usually. You do it amazingly, and I'll ask you the question that I had in the next call, okay?
Okay, well, fantastic. And see, that's why, I encourage, the, questions and conversations, because I think that, all of us going through the same thing, right? And so nothing's unique to anyone, and so anything that, we are going through, is likely somebody else is going through it too, and most of what I post about is either observations that came to me from either my meditations or my spiritual studies, or just my observations of the lessons of life. And I share them with people because I know that other people are going through the same thing, and that people will benefit from it. So, that's why, the benefit of, having the conversation, and also the fact that, we are vessels, and, by asking the question, the universe will reveal the answer. Okay, so, yeah.
Sarah, may I add just a little bit here? Give me another 30 seconds.
Yep.
You are my biggest teacher in terms of observation, because I still make some choices here and there where I screw up. However, when I'm aware of the outcome of my choice, I know better for the next time what to do or what not to do in terms of what the outcome will be.
Yep.
So I honor and appreciate it so much, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate it, brother.
So with that, I want to thank everybody for participating on the call, for your input and insights and sharing. And we do this every week, and we want to expand it to as many people as possible, because I think this is what the world needs now in these difficult times. So with that. Bid you in the Kemetic words of peace, Hotep, and we will see you next time on Journey to Self.
All right. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon, guys. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.